Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today is June 16th, and we have another multifamily ADU live seminar. My name is Helen, and I'm with ADU1 and Retrofit 1. So thank you again for joining us. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat room. And a couple were sent in to me prior, so I'll make sure to get to those as well. So let's see, so we can begin. Our presentation today will be about mainly multifamily ADUs, and I will touch a little bit on ADUs for single family residences, since we get that question a lot, and some of our clients also have single family residences too. So we do some work with single family, but our main focus are multifamily. So to begin, for multifamily properties, the number of ADUs that you're allowed to have, you can do up to 25% of your current number of units. And these are for attached ADUs. These ADUs have to be part of the existing building, something that's a space that's already there and uninhabited, such as an attached garage, tuck-under parking, storage rooms, basements, attics, passageways, boiler rooms, things like that. Multifamily properties are not permitted to add attached units. That is allowed in single family homes. So that's one of the differences. So they do not allow you to add square footage to the main primary structure. It could only be conversions, internal conversions. And again, that's up to 25% of your current number of units. Another rule, you can also do detached ADUs. And no matter your lot size, anything like that, you are allowed up to 2 detached ADUs, space permitting. So that is if your lot does have enough space following setbacks. The setbacks are typically 4 feet side and rear. In most cases, ADUs are not allowed in the front setback. So between the primary building and the street, more than likely it's not permitted. If you have a large space between the street and the property, and let's say your front setback is 10 feet, you might be allowed. But some cities just directly say no ADUs between the primary structure and the street. So it really depends on your city. Kind of connecting with that, with the locations where the ADUs are allowed. Again, tuck under parking, garages, space on the lot or land, such as an open yard, carports. You can even build, if your city allows it, you can put an ADU or 2 on top of the carport. So we design those. Sometimes, though, it may remove a parking spot because you do have to take into account the stairway, and stairways typically are not permitted in any of the setbacks, the side or rear. Sometimes they're allowed in the building separation. So you have to keep that in mind too. We received a question before today regarding, can I place a detached unit in between the garage and the building? It really depends on how many feet you have in between your garage, your existing garage, and the building, because again, there are building separation rules. Usually it's 6 feet. Some cities require 10, some 15. But at the very least, it's 5 to 6 feet. 6 is the most common. So if you're thinking, let's say it's 6 feet, automatically you lose 12 feet of space between both existing structures. So if you don't have a huge area in between, then you may not have enough room to build. And then consider 4 feet on the sides as well. So it may make for a very narrow space unless you have a very large lot. You also don't want to block any areas that they're going to need access for either. But depending on your city, you may be able to put it on top of the existing carport, and that way you can still preserve parking and just build on top if necessary. If necessary, sometimes we would have to demo the existing carport or garage if it's, dilapidated and just old, and it'll cost the same amount just to build a new structure versus reinforcing it. And if we have to create, new footings, stem wall, that kind of stuff, sometimes you're better off just demoing it, using the existing footprint, and building a new garage with units on top. So I wanted to get in today a little different, just to describe some of the local cities' ordinances. We get a lot of inquiries from Long Beach. So Long Beach has a couple of differences that I've seen. One of the main differences that I've noticed is they consider duplexes to be the same rules as single family homes for the sake of ADU rules. So single family and duplexes have the same rules, at least in Long Beach. Other cities, such as Santa Monica, Los Angeles, West Hollywood, Pasadena, Santa Clarita, 2 or more dwellings are considered multifamily. Another city, Santa Clarita, for example, they have a brand new ordinance, and these are one of the cities that require you to pick either attached or detached. They don't allow you to do both configurations. The same with Long Beach, actually, too. There are a few cities where they only allow 1-story ADUs. Glendale is one of them, and I believe West Hollywood. Another thing to add for Long Beach is zones R1 and R2 are not allowed new construction. So you cannot build on top of carports. You can't build detached ADUs ground up. It has to only be direct conversions if you're R1, R2 in Long Beach. Other areas, these rules do not apply. Los Angeles, they're really lenient, pretty flexible as far as locations on top. They allow us to work with the height limitations to still put a second story. If you're only doing 1 unit on top, they're not as rigid. So LA is simple enough to work with as far as ADU goes. Something else I wanted to get into is regarding HPOZ, the HPOZ areas. One moment. Please close the door. Just please close the door, Zane, and I'll be there in a second. Okay, go ahead. So in the HPOZ areas, these are the historic preservation. For historic preservation, they require you to keep the same look as they require you to keep the same look as the primary structure. So we would take all of that into account for the design and development. They have also certain design standards that we would follow as well, and they usually don't want you to change the facade of any of the existing structures. So they like to, as the name says, historical preservation, they like to preserve the history of the building, the architecture of the building. So we would be matching it and making sure that the ADU matches the existing building. And we take all of that into account during the design stage. To throw in some stats for single family residences. So for single family residences, you're allowed 1 ADU, and that could be attached or detached. Like mentioned before, you can do new construction attached to the house. You can do it detached, you can do conversions, you can do on top. Usually the height limits don't limit you either. They're either 24 or 25 feet, or they just defer to what your zone allows, which is usually plenty. So you won't have any problem for single family residences doing any type of 2-story. You could even just build a 2-story ADU. So it has dwelling bottom with some stairs, like, another house in the back. So those are usually no problem for single family homes. If the house is owner occupied, you are also allowed to do 1 junior ADU. And the rules with junior ADUs are they have to be within the existing home, but they can also be part of the, or they can be converted from attached garages. However, they're capped at 500 square feet. And like I said, it has to be owner occupied. Either the JADU has to be owner occupied or the house has to be owner occupied. So this is something to consider if you may want to rent, both at some point. You have to live in one of them. So if you're planning to move but keep them both as rental income, you're better off just going the ADU route and doing one ADU. So that way you are not tied to the covenant of the owner occupancy restriction. Let's see. Another thing that we do is, of course, we're a division of Retrofit One, which is seismic retrofitting. So many of you may be familiar with the seismic retrofitting, which is structurally reinforcing the exterior of your building. Your city may have required you to do this if you have a vulnerable building built, I believe, before 1979, and if it meets certain criteria. These can typically cost, $50,000 onwards to hundreds of thousands of dollars. What we can do is, if you want to convert the tuck under area where the seismic retrofitting is required into an ADU, we can combine those requirements at the same time. So that's something you can do to at least get a return on your investment, monthly income, and not just have to spend money on the retrofitting by itself. And if you're in Los Angeles and you're eligible for the cost recovery program, we can separate all costs for you and allow you to still meet, of course, all retrofitting requirements for the program and for code, and get units at the same time. So that's something you're able to do now, which is, it's really helpful. You can take care of your requirements and increase housing and increase your unit count for your building. As far as pricing goes, we generally start around $300 a square foot, and that is for, direct conversions, tuck under. Of course, detached, new construction, second stories, those are a little higher. But when you inquire for a proposal, we take a look at your property. We have programs that can do measurements, or we go on site to meet with you. We'll take measurements on site or with our program, and we'll let you know all of your options, where the ADUs can go, approximate sizing for the ADUs, and our costs. And if you're doing the retrofitting at the same time, we will incorporate that all together. So it ends up not being a significant difference between your retrofit and getting a whole unit. So it's really worth it to do that route if you have to do the retrofitting too. Of course, if you don't have to do retrofitting at all, that's no problem. Just do the ADUs, and part of our proposals and analyses will show a market breakdown, market rents, and what your ROI and the GRM is for the proposed units. So it's really nice just to see all laid out on paper for you. So lastly, I wanted to get in, well, not lastly, because I'll go into a little bit of the Senate Bill 721 about the balconies and decks, but I wanted to talk a little bit about our current projects right now. So there's one that we're doing actually in the Westwood area. It's with tuck under parking. This project has tuck under along with storage units adjacent to the tuck under. We were able to use all of the tuck under as well as some of the storage to create, I believe, at least 800 square feet. They just wanted one unit, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And during the planning stage, we work with the property owner for the layout. We don't submit until we get the owner's final approval for the layout. So if there are any requests, revisions you have after seeing the preliminary drawing, we make sure that if we're able to do it, that we do that and show it to you to get approval. If it's not feasible, we'll let you know, whether it's something due to the plumbing or any type of rule or code. But we work with you until you are satisfied with the design, and then that's what gets submitted to the city. So that way you know exactly what it's going to look like for construction. So for that project, actually, they also have a double driveway, and we're going to submit with converting one of the driveways into double tandem spots. So it'll actually be 4 spots. One set of cars goes in from here, another from there. So they actually replaced all of that tuck under with moving them to the other driveway, which is really neat. So something we like to do, if we're able to preserve parking for you, we will definitely let you know where and how it can be moved. In Glendale, we're actually working on a couple of projects there. One of them, I believe, is also for tuck under, but nobody was using it. He has plenty of space on the land and that driveway area for the parking. And another one is also just being used. It's a detached garage on a duplex. It's just being used as storage. So we're converting that, and we're going to see if we can, widen or expand the driveway. So that way more cars can also fit there. And then the ADU can have parking actually. Which brings me again, I'm glad I didn't forget, the rules for parking. So state law says if you're converting a carport or a garage or tuck under, you do not have to replace the parking. And if your building is within a half mile to public transit, you also do not have to add additional parking. We have yet to see any property that's come through our desks that is not half a mile to public transit. So that's really nice. So in most cases, you will not have to replace or add any parking. But in these cases, again, if we're able to still add parking somewhere and that would be valuable for you, we'll definitely include that in the plans if it's permitted by your city. Another project we're working on in Hermosa Beach is just a backyard detached unit. It's, I believe, over 400 square feet. It's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. So it's going to yield a lot of rent over there, which is going to be really nice. And it's, in the yard area that wasn't even being used. So turning something that had zero income into now at least, a couple grand a month, from nothing. So it's really amazing. And let's see, we also have some projects in Torrance, in Lawndale, in Inglewood. And we also we have one in Berkeley too, because we do serve up north. And in Berkeley, it's also a combination right now of tuck under and storage rooms and some unused office space. Sometimes we're not allowed to use commercial space, but some buildings you can, again, depending on the city, depending on the zone. So in this case, we're converting unused tuck under and storage and this office into 3 units actually. So it's really great. They're all 1-bedroom, 1-bath, putting in windows, making sure it's really nice. And let's see, we actually have several projects right now in the Hollywood region, also doing units on top of carports and basement units. We're putting 2 units in a basement and units on top of carports. So again, preserving as much parking as possible and just increasing income for all of these property owners. Lastly, I'll get into Senate Bill 721 and how that ties in with our ADUs. So the state did pass, I believe in 2019, a law requiring all multifamily buildings with 3 or more units to do what's called the elevated exterior element inspection and report. So these exterior elements are balconies, decks, walkways, bridges, anything that's above the ground floor and extends out of the building. You must get that inspected, mainly for the waterproofing, the joists, things like that, to make sure they're structurally sound and won't collapse. Since, as you may have recently heard, in Malibu, that balcony collapsed, and several years ago in Berkeley, the balcony collapsed and many students died. So it was a really tragic incident. And so now the state passed this law. You must do these reports, I believe, every 6 years. So how that ties in, and they must be done by an architect or an engineer or a general contractor who can do the repairs. So how that ties in with our ADUs, we are offering a free inspection and report with your ADU if your building requires this. So just let us know whenever you sign up for the construction. We will include this report because we work with licensed engineers, we're general contractors, plumbing contractors, we do it all. So just to recap, there is the 25% rule of your unit count, or at least one. So duplexes can do one, triplexes can do one, and so forth, up to 2 detached. Our prices start at around $300 a square foot. We take care of everything from the architectural design and engineering, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing plans, Title 24, green building. We do the full permitting process for you as well. We take care of all of that, from the design to permitting process with the city. Our prices for construction include the full scope construction, finishes, fixtures, flooring, lighting, doors, cabinets, countertops, bathrooms, kitchens, sinks, things like that. We include it. We include almost everything to get you a turnkey, ready to rent unit. Our usual items that we don't include are governmental fees, city fees, plan check permits, stuff like that. If you need to upgrade your electrical panel, we could do that for you. We have a team of electricians, but we don't include that in the price. We also suggest we're doing HVAC, mini split systems. They're energy efficient, they're cost effective, they're not too expensive either. So that is what we work with. They're ductless systems. They go in the wall with an external compressor, and they're really great for these types of units for heating and AC. So other than that, that's I believe all I have for today. If you do have any questions, please let me know in the chat. Otherwise, feel free to give us a call, 1-866-NEW-ADU1. That's 1-866-NEW-ADU1. I believe that's 639-2381, 639-2381. Or you can email us at info@ADU-1.com, and I'll put it here in the chat, info@ADU-1, and our number is here, 639-2381. So thank you again for joining us. And if you have any additional questions, you need any proposals, you would like to meet at any of the properties, give us a call or email. We serve NorCal, San Francisco, Alameda County, Los Angeles County, Ventura, Oxnard, San Diego, Orange County, San Gabriel Valley. So yeah, give us a call or email us, and we are happy to help you. We're a family-owned and operated company. Sometimes my son, as you saw in the background, will be at the office helping us out too, and learning the construction ways. So thanks again, and see you next week.